What if the breakdown isn't the obstacle to awakening, but the doorway into it? What if the pain you're carrying, the unraveling, the confusion, the hollow ache in your chest, isn't a sign that something's gone wrong, but a signal that something deeper is being born? You see, we've been sold a myth that awakening is soft, that it feels like light, bliss, serenity, that you rise into your truth like a balloon into the sky. But for most, that's not how it begins. It begins with collapse. It begins when the world you've built around you starts to fracture, when the things that once gave you meaning no longer do, when your identity starts to peel layer by layer and all that's left is a terrifying silence inside. And here's the truth no one told you, that silence is sacred, that pain is a portal, that the shattering you're experiencing isn't punishment, it's purification. Because before anything awakens, it must first dissolve. The caterpillar doesn't grow wings, it disintegrates. Inside the cocoon, it becomes liquid, unformed, unrecognizable, and only then does something new emerge. The same happens to you. You thought awakening would elevate you, but first, it will hollow you. It will take everything you're not and burn it in the fire of becoming. You will lose your certainty. You will question your sanity. You will mourn the self that you thought was real. And in that mourning, something ancient will stir. This is the dark night of the soul. And it is not a detour, it is the path itself. In this video, we will walk into the fire together. We'll explore why awakening often begins with suffering, why the ego must crumble before truth can take root, and how silence, stillness, and even despair can become the soil of transformation. Because by the end of this, you may see your pain not as something to fix, but as something vital. The breaking is not the end, it's the beginning. Awakening does not arrive wrapped in golden light. It doesn't knock gently on your door with answers and clarity. It comes as a collapse, a crumbling, a sacred undoing of everything false. And in that moment, when everything you thought you were begins to fall apart, it feels like death. Because it is. It is the death of illusion, the death of identity, the death of the story that once held your life together. And that death is the beginning. You see, awakening rarely begins in temples or retreats. It begins in hospital beds, in empty bedrooms, in the middle of the night when you can't stop shaking, when the job ends, when the person leaves, when the mask finally slips and you can't put it back on. It begins where comfort ends, because it's only when the ego breaks down that the soul has space to rise. Carl Jung called this the night sea journey, the descent into the unconscious where the old self must drown. In mythology, it's the hero's fall into the underworld. In alchemy, it's nigredo, the blackening, the necessary stage of decomposition before any transmutation can occur. And you are in that stage now, or you've passed through it, or you will. Because no one awakens untouched. No one gets to skip the fire. And yet, we resist it. We think, this shouldn't be happening. I'm supposed to be rising, not falling. I've done the work, why does it still hurt? But the truth is, the fall is the work. The pain is the proof. Not that you're failing, but that your soul is finally taking the reins. When everything collapses, you're forced to see what was never real. The relationships that were based on pretending, the goals that were born from wounding, the versions of you that were constructed to earn love, safety, approval, gone. And in their absence, a strange emptiness appears. You want to fix it, to rebuild, to get back to who you were. But that's not the point. This isn't about becoming who you were, it's about becoming who you've never allowed yourself to be. And to do that, the scaffolding must fall. Because awakening is not an upgrade, it's a dismantling. Not an ascent, but a burial. Not enlightenment as addition, but as subtraction. You are not becoming more, you are becoming real. And real means raw. It means crying without knowing why. It means losing faith, then losing the version of you who needed faith. It means sitting in the rubble of what you thought was life and discovering something is still breathing. You. Not the character, not the mask, but the awareness behind it all. That's what the breakdown reveals. Not answers, but space. The kind of space where something new, something truer can grow. And no, it won't happen overnight. It will take time. It will take silence. It will take your willingness to stop running and simply feel. Feel the grief. Feel the confusion. Feel the strange beauty of being stripped bare. This is not regression. It is initiation. You are not being punished. You are being purified. Because before you can rise into who you truly are, you must release who you never were. And sometimes the only way the soul can make you let go is to let everything fall apart. So if you are in the breakdown now, breathe. You are not lost. You are being remade. And this pain, this holy fire, it is not the end. It is the beginning of the beginning. There comes a moment on the path when nothing makes sense anymore. The practices stop working. The affirmations fall flat. The signs, the synchronicities, the rush of spiritual insight, all gone. You feel disconnected from everything that once moved you. The world loses its color, and even the sacred feels silent. This is the dark night of the soul, not a poetic metaphor, not a spiritual setback, but a deep, existential unraveling. A sacred void that strips away everything you thought would save you. And though it feels like despair, it's actually a doorway. The term comes from the 16th century Spanish mystic Saint John of the Cross. He described it not as punishment, but as purification, a divine initiation, where God or Source removes all sense of closeness, all feeling of grace, in order to reveal what cannot be taken. Because what you're losing isn't truth. You're losing your addiction to what you thought was true. The spiritual high, the sense of progress, the belief that awakening would feel good. But awakening is not always a gentle rising. Sometimes it's a descent, not into darkness, but into the truth that light cannot be manufactured. It must be remembered. And in the dark night, that remembering happens not through effort, but through surrender. This is the stage where the ego finally sees it can't do it, can't force growth, can't bypass grief, can't fabricate awakening. So it begins to dissolve. And with it, so do the illusions it built, that you're supposed to feel happy all the time, that spiritual people don't get angry, that healing means never hurting again. No. The dark night burns through that nonsense. It brings you face to face with the silence beneath the noise, with the nothingness that was always waiting, not to hurt you, but to hollow you out so that what's real can finally take root. And yes, it hurts. It hurts because you're losing something. But what you're losing is the mask, the false self, the idea that you had to become something to be worthy of being. And that loss is grace, not the kind that soothes, the kind that scorches. You may feel isolated, misunderstood, invisible to the people around you. You may wonder if you've lost your way, when in fact you've never been closer to the path. Because the path is not upward, it is inward. And sometimes inward feels like vanishing. But what's actually vanishing is the illusion of separation. And what's being born, though you can't feel it yet, is presence. Still, quiet, undeniable. This phase cannot be rushed. It can only be honored. You must let the night have you. Let yourself be emptied. Let yourself ache. Let yourself not know who you are anymore. Because it's in that not knowing that the new emerges. Not a better self, but a deeper silence. A truer gaze. A wholeness that doesn't need to be earned. Spiritual teachers throughout time have spoken of this. In Buddhism, it's the barren plain before insight. In Sufism, it's the annihilation of the self in the face of the beloved. In indigenous traditions, it's the vision quest, the solitary walk through the wilderness before the spirit returns. And always, it begins the same way, with the sense that something has died, and the fear that nothing will ever be born again. But listen carefully in that darkness. There is something breathing. Something ancient, something eternal. It is not your personality, not your story, not your mind. It is your being, unchanging, unmoved, waiting beneath the rubble, not to be found, but to be remembered. The dark night is not the end. It is the cocoon, the liminal space between death and rebirth, the pause between the exhale and the next inhale. And while it may feel like nothing is happening, everything is. The soul is rearranging itself. Truth is seeping through the cracks. and life is preparing to bloom through you in a way that will never need proving again. So if you are in the dark night, stay, not because it's comfortable, but because it's sacred. You are not broken, you are becoming. There's a point on this path when the collapse becomes more than emotional, more than circumstantial. It becomes existential. You stop mourning the loss of things around you and begin to grieve the one who was attached to them. Not the lover, not the job, but the you who wanted them, needed them, believed they were essential. And as that version of you begins to dissolve, you face what may be the most disorienting moment of all: ego death. Not the death of your personality, not the end of memory, humor, or uniqueness, but the crumbling of the illusion that there is a solid, separate I running the show. You see, the ego is not evil. It's not the enemy. It's a strategy. It's the way your mind organized reality to feel safe. It created roles, stories, boundaries. It labeled things: me, you, good, bad, mine, not mine. And it did this out of love, out of protection. But awakening isn't about reinforcing the ego's architecture. It's about seeing through it. And what you see is this: the one you thought you were, the one with the goals, the identity, the spiritual ambition, was never more than a mask, a necessary one perhaps, but a mask nonetheless. And when the mask begins to fall away, the ego panics. It senses its death and does what anything facing extinction would do. It fights, it negotiates, it spiritualizes, it says, I'm the one letting go, I'm becoming egoless, I'm doing this right. But even that is ego, the mind trying to take credit for its own disappearance. But ego death isn't something you do, it's something that happens. Usually it comes when you've exhausted every way to fix, improve, or transcend yourself. And then quietly something else appears. Not a voice, not an answer, but a soft absence. The chatter falls away. The story pauses. What's left is a stillness you can't name yet have always known. A bird sings and you don't just hear it, you are the hearing. Life becomes immediate again, unfiltered, effortless. This is not emptiness to fear, it is freedom. The ego may grieve its own dissolving. You may feel lost, exposed, raw, but beneath that rawness breathes a deeper truth. You were never the one trying to awaken. You were the awareness that watched it all. No mask, no performance, just presence, vast, quiet, and utterly alive. This is the gentle death of illusion, and the birth of what cannot be destroyed. What happens after ego death, after the unraveling, the collapse, the storm? What follows the fire that burned everything you thought you were? Silence, stillness, a space so vast, so empty, so unbearably quiet, it can feel like nothing. This is the void, not depression, not apathy, but the in-between, the sacred pause between who you were and who you are not yet. And make no mistake, this place is just as holy as the heights of awakening, because here, you are being remade. But unlike the earlier stages, where emotion surged and the ground cracked open, the void is not loud. It is still, vast, echoing, and it terrifies the mind, because the ego is gone, and there is no new self to take its place. No story, no direction, just being, raw and undefined. You wake up in the morning and nothing calls to you. The passions that once lit your fire feel muted. The things that mattered don't. Even your spiritual practices feel like shadows of something once vibrant. And you ask, am I broken? Have I gone numb? Have I lost something vital? But no, you haven't lost life. You've lost the illusion that life needed your performance. You are not numb. You are quiet. You are not empty in a hollow sense. You are empty of attachment, narrative, identity. This is not a void of lack. It is a void of potential, a silent womb where only what's real can be born. Here the mind panics, craving something to fix, to fill, to become. But the soul knows, this emptiness is not your enemy. This is where you learn to trust what you cannot see, to rest without answers, to listen without demanding a voice. Like winter before spring, this stillness is not death, it is preparation. Stay here. Do not rush to rebuild. Do not force your becoming. In this sacred pause, something deeper takes root, a quiet strength, a softer vision. When the time comes, life will move through you again, not from fear, but from presence. And what emerges will not be who you were, but what you've always been beneath the noise. This is the gift of the void, the space that makes you whole again. And then after the fire, the silence, the long, hollow dark, something stirs. Not with thunder, but with a whisper. A warmth flickers where numbness once lived. A soft breath of aliveness moves through your chest. You wake and notice that the sky feels nearer. Small moments feel sweeter. Nothing to prove, nothing to fix. Just this breath, just this step, just this gentle pulse inside you. This is not a return to who you were. It is the revealing of who you have always carried inside. The mind grows quiet, the body softens. Action flows from stillness, like a new stream carving through old earth. You speak less, yet mean more. You feel deeply, but you do not drown. You stand in life, raw, imperfect, real, and discover that this is enough. People may say, you have changed, but you know, you have simply remembered. This is rebirth, the flowering of your truest nature, without needing permission or proof. No destination, no identity to hold on to. Only presence moving through you, one breath at a time. And in that gentle unfolding, you realize you were never broken. You were only waiting to come home to yourself. Now perhaps you see what they never told you. Awakening isn't a beam of light pouring down from above. It's the tearing away of what could never hold your truth. The pain, the silence, the collapse, these weren't signs of failure. They were proof the old was crumbling to make space for something enduring. You didn't fall apart because you were weak. You fell apart so the deeper part of you could stand unshaken. The breakdown was your initiation. The dark night, your passage. The void, your womb of rest. Ego death cleared the way for life to move through you freely. And yes, it was hard. It shook you raw, it stripped you down, but something within you stayed untouched, quiet, watchful, alive. That presence is you. Not the story, not the scars, not the mask, just the witnessing spark that endures every ending. Now you stand among your own ruins, and what once felt like destruction reveals itself as sacred ground. The fire did not consume you. It revealed you. So if shadows linger, if silence surrounds you, trust it. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are home, in the only place that ever mattered, the quiet center of your own being. Breathe, bow, listen. Life will rise through you again, not by force, but by remembering what you've always been.